promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is awesome! Hello and welcome once again to Cheap Shot Entertainment. We're doing some more retro reviews for you and we're still going through the year 2000. I'm your host Luke and you are the Cheap Shot Nation, and we're going to take you through everything that happened at Rebellion 2000. Now this one was here, right here in good old Blighty in the city of Sheffield, complete with black cabs, because all Americans think that all cities and places in the UK have black cabs and big red buses. Anyway, the commissioner arrives in Sheffield in a black cab with a personalised number plate and his personal chauffeur in Deborah Boing. So he arrives, he gets a cheap pop, he sets up the show to carry on, and like I say, it's in Sheffield Arena and it was on the 2nd of December in the year 2000. He comes directly to the ring and announces that Triple H cannot be at the show, and therefore he has been replaced by Stone Cold Steve Austin in the fatal four-way no disqualification, no count out match for the WWF title. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe that no DQ means no count out. But, you know, there you go. Just, you know, it's covering all the bases. He is the commissioner. He's been in wrestling a lot longer than I've been alive and been a wrestling fan. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. Gets a cheap pop for the people in Sheffield. Yay. And he leaves and we get straight on to the first match. It is a triple threat elimination table match. Lots of these table matches going off at year 2000 pay-per-views. Always at the beginning of the show, always multi-team elimination matches, and always involving the Dudley Boys. Now, it would be a bit weird if it didn't involve the Dudley Boys, considering that they are the innovators of the table, so to speak. They're certainly the innovators of the table spot, and obviously at this point in time, really weird, because at the beginning of the year, a lot of these teams were going for WWF title gold. Now they're fighting amongst each other. The tag team division was stacked, a bit like AEW is now, and these guys are just fighting amongst themselves, putting each other through tables for our entertainment. I like it. Well done. Anyway, yes, it's the APA, which is Farouk and Bradshaw versus Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys. It's not the APA. Some reason that has been changed on my thing. Didn't think it was. I'm just reading straight off my iPad and it's not even the APA. It's TNA PA. So I wasn't very far off, because I've just read the first line on here and it says Albert goes through the table after a double powerbomb from Edge and Christian. So they are eliminated first. Test and Albert are gone, along with Trish, sadly. The next through the table is Christian, who is put through the table after saving Edge from the same fate, which was indeed a 3D setup with the table in the middle of the ring. Christian goes through the table, the Dudley Boys win. And yeah, would you expect anything different from the Dudley Boys? This is a fun little opening match for Rebellion, and like I say, a really fun match. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 cheap shots on my cheap shot, actually it's this way, cheap shot scale. And yeah, say it was actually really good. This pay-per-view is actually in the middle of a couple of reasonably dodgy pay-per-views, really, and it had no reason to be, or no right to be, as good as it actually was. But I really enjoyed that match. It was cool. We get right to centre next. It is Richards on the mic, and he cuts a promo on the Full Monty, because obviously they're in Sheffield and he doesn't like nudity. Pubs being on every single street corner, hooray, even though they're shut at the moment, and the monarchy not willing to fight the good fight and stop the pubs being open and stop the nudity happening, even though the Full Monty is also a stage show. Yeah, don't anybody tell Stephen Richards that. So we get this is the precursor to the WWF Women's Championship. It is Ivory versus Lita. Stephen Richards passes the microphone over to Ivory, who is absolutely awesome. Love Ivory. And she cuts a promo on Lita following the light. Sounds like someone familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Yeah, following the light, saying that she's got her pants above her pants. And yeah, it's different words in America, isn't it? Underwear. There we go. Underwear above her pants, even though they're trousers, and it's just getting confusing. Anyway, Richards gets involved in this one, which is really annoying because I feel like these two could have had a really decent match and could have had and put on a showcase of women's wrestling, because the ladies, they weren't allowed to do anything in the year 2000 apart from strip off and show their boobs. And yeah, back in the day, 14-year-old me, well, I wasn't 14, I was about 16 in the year 2000, and yeah, 16-year-old me, 17-year-old me, love that. I get to 37 and it's nice every so often, but every single show, no. Let the ladies do what the ladies do and beat the tar out of each other like the guys do. Just let them get on with it. Anyway, Richards gets involved, Ivory wins. This match was a complete throwaway, unfortunately, and I don't like giving 0 stars because there is a little bit of effort there, or 0 cheap shots. So I'm going to give this half a cheap shot out of 5, and really that is being incredibly generous, and it really does showcase the sorry state of women's wrestling in the year 2000 in WWE. Finally, The Rock has come back to Sheffield. He gets the cheap pop and everyone goes crazy. The Rock is in the house and he's going to whip some candy bum, as he puts it, and I thought that was absolutely hilarious because The Rock is awesome. Moving on to the WWF Hardcore Championship. Next, it is Perry Saturn versus Steve Blackman, who is the current champion. These guys get entrances and everything like that. The Hardcore Championship is everything that the 24/7 Championship wishes it could be in the year 2020. Again, really hard-hitting match. You usually put your workhorses in matches like this for the Hardcore Championship. People who are on the lower mid-card, not quite going for a European Championship or an Intercontinental Championship, but they need something to do. And the roster was absolutely stacked back then. It's the same reason they did the 24/7 Championship, but it never really took off because R-Truth is basically been like the 4th millionth 100th time champion. Anyway, Blackman wins after a fun hard-hitting match. There was bins, there was kendo sticks, there was steel chairs, kick thrust to the steel chair as Perry Saturn is going to strike Steve Blackman. Don't leave the lethal weapon with an option to kick a chair into your face. This one was really, really fun. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 cheap shots, and I'm going to say this one, I'm going to say it again, was really fun. Watch some Hardcore Championship matches from the year 2000. They were great, and it only gets better in 2001. Up next we have the European Championship, a championship that was on its last legs at this point in time, but William Regal, the stout gentleman that he is, was carrying it for the whole of Europe, including the UK, because it was the year 2000 and Brexit wasn't a thing. William Regal then proceeds to bury all of English sports and says that it's lucky that we have such a professional to look up to in William Regal, and Yes, I absolutely agree, and quite often I give extra cheap shots for William Regal just being on the card, and this was no different. It is William Regal versus Crash Holly with Molly Holly, and I can always dig Molly Holly being down at ringside because she is absolutely gorgeous. So Regal dominates this one. He gets the pin, but Crash turns out that he's got his foot on the ropes, and the match continues after a massive beatdown of Crash Holly from William Regal, the Englishman, of course. And as the referee is distracted, Molly Holly gets involved. She drop kicks William Regal. This finishes Regal off, which is daft, really, but this allows the ref time to continue the match and Crash Holly to pick up the victory. He gets the pin over William Regal after a drop kick from Molly Holly, proving how good she actually is in a ring, because it was a beautiful missile drop kick, not only because it was Molly Holly but because of the way it was delivered as well. You can really appreciate a good missile drop kick because you're basically jumping from 6 feet in the air and landing on your face. So Crash becomes the new European champion. Regal, however, does not take this well, and he attacks Molly Holly in the first instance and then Crash Holly, and walks away with the championship, waving to all of the good people in Sheffield, because, you know, you're going to your hometown, it's the WWE thing, you go to your hometown, you lose the championship, and it's just the way things are. Anyway, he walks away with the gold. Tag team match is next. So yeah, William Regal walks away with the gold. A straightforward tag team match now with no gold implications or golden implications or title implications. It is Guerrero and Malenko of the Radicals versus China. I'm going to build a wall of China. That was my impression of Donald Trump. Anyway, and Billy Gunn, who is, he's actually having a decent singles run at this time. He's actually one of the most celebrated tag team wrestlers in professional wrestling, and he's having a decent singles run as the one Billy Gunn, hanging around with Chyna, who is his running buddy in D-Generation X. Anyway, this one would be a relatively short match, showcasing how much Chyna can do battle with the dudes. And it would be Billy Gunn hitting the Jackhammer, or the one and only, or whatever he calls it, on Dean Malenko for the win. So Chyna and Billy Gunn get the win. And I'm going to give this 2 out of 5 cheap shots. It's very serviceable, if only for the talent on show and storyline being told, although I think the Eddie Chyna storyline was definitely pretty much gone by this point in time, so don't know why they're still sort of forcing it, but yeah, it was a good storyline while it lasted. At this point, it is non-existent. The Radicals are back together. Eddie Guerrero and Chyna have worked out that, you know, they don't like each other, so let's just get on with it, eh? Next match on the card is a straight-out singles match, and it involves Coffeegate between Y2J Chris Jericho and the Big Red Machine, Kane. Of course, a couple of months ago, Chris Jericho spilt some hot coffee on Kane, and back in, in this time, in 5 years' time, there would be very much controversy over the words hot and coffee in the game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. But obviously this is the year 2000, and hot coffee controversy involved Chris Jericho spilling coffee over the big red monster Kane. Kane gets the win. He had the run of the mill in this feud. It's been going on for quite some time, a couple of months, and he hits a massive choke slam in a by-the-books wrestling match to give him the win over Y2J, and Y2J doesn't take this very well. He hits the walls of Jericho on the ramp after attacking Kane as he was celebrating going to the locker room. I miss things like this, you know. You got lots of run-ins, you got lots of interference, but I miss like feuds continuing because you've run out of the ring and attacked someone. I remember games being like that as well in WWE. You know, you had the chance to attack someone after you beat them, or run after them if they'd beaten you, and you could go and attack them there. You had the chance to break your entrance and run in and attack them before they even knew they were, you know, had a match or whatever, you know. And I miss that kind of stuff, and this was, like I say, by the books, but it was definitely more enjoyable than the Survivor Series match, and it would get better towards as we go through December. 2.5 cheap shots out of 5, very much a run-of-the-mill, middling wrestling match between two superstars. I mean, you've got to say the superstar Chris Jericho came in with a lot of fanfare, so did Kane, and bollocks. WWF Tag Team Championships on the line next. The champions right to censor, that is the Good Father and Bull Buchanan, defending their championships against the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff. One of the major tag teams in the division at this point. Of course, right to censor coming in like a house on fire, censoring everything, and I've gained an appreciation of them as I go along. Maybe sparking a second idea for a character for when wrestling does actually come back. So the match was quite busy. It had lots of hard-hitting moves, and Right to Censor showed that they are very worthy champions defending against the Hardy Boys. But a Swanton Bomb would land, but Venus hits the money shot as the referee wasn't looking, and the referee obviously being distracted by Mr. Stephen Richards, and that gives Right to Censor the win, to pick up the win, because the money shot hits, Jeff Hardy is out, the Good Father covers, and Right to Censor retain the championships. Again, bit of a sad throwaway of the Tag Team Championships that was so hotly contested during the year 2000 in this one. It had, interference from Stephen Richards, and it didn't have a lot of time to build. Sadly, it was one of the worst matches on the card, and I'm going to give it 1.5 or 1.5 cheap shots out of 5 in old money. Could have been better, needed to be better. It was for the Tag Team Championships. So in the build up to the next match, it would be Benoit teasing The Undertaker, saying, "You ready to go?" And the Radicals would then attack The Undertaker from behind. It would of course be The Undertaker versus Chris Benoit, but the Radicals did a massive number on The Undertaker's knee, and if you're going to go against someone who is 6'10" and nearly 300 pounds, you want to take down their vertical base, and that is exactly what Benoit and the Radicals did. So Benoit makes his entrance, and after 3 separate entrances by The Undertaker, still didn't take up as much time as his current WrestleMania entrances, although he did get a bike this year, which was good. 3 separate entrances. The Undertaker makes his appearance on the third one. Benoit would continue to attack that knee of The Undertaker, and The Undertaker would gain the advantage with an inside cradle, something that we've never seen The Undertaker do in a long time. But needs must, it is a fight for survival, and The Undertaker wins this one against a very capable Chris Benoit. I'm going to give this 3 cheap shots out of 5, and yeah, dominant display by Chris Benoit. He had the upper hand here, but Undertaker showing all that knowledge and cunning to pick up the victory here. Love The Undertaker, love Chris Benoit, even though obviously he did what he did, but we'll concentrate on what he can do in the ring, and appreciate that, even though he's anyway. Undertaker beats Chris Benoit, straightforward, no messing, very clean. Undertaker picks up the victory in Sheffield. WWF Championship on the line next. It is Kurt Angle defending in a fatal 4-way, no DQ, no count-out match against Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is replacing Triple H. We found that out earlier on in the night. Rikishi and The Rock. 4 of the 6 participants for the next pay-per-view, which happens to be Armageddon. So Angle would be the usual heel champion here, taking a back seat. Austin and Rock beating up on Angle and Rikishi. Rikishi getting some blows in. He was literally just in this feud to take the finishing moves and put a little ass on it, so to speak. And Angle hits the Angle Slam on Rikishi after interference from Edge and Christian. Obviously Edge and Christian had gone through a table earlier on in the night. They said they weren't going to help Angle, but Angle said, come on, I'd do that if I'd gone through a table for you. These 3 were absolute comedy gold at this point in time. Stone Cold Stunner and a People's Elbow to Rikishi also, and Kurt Angle gets the victory. So the Angle Slam would come after all of those finishing moves, of course. I'm going to give this 3.5 cheap shots out of 5. It was a great match until the end, which garnered a lot of interference and things. It seemed to be a thing at this point in time in WWE in the year 2000. Lots of interference to win matches. And then it's beer time with Stone Cold and The Rock sharing an actual Budweiser. Not a Bud Light, but a Budweiser. Which was really cool, because obviously Stone Cold and The Rock are very popular at this point in time. Really, this pay-per-view had no right to be as good as it was. Certainly better than No Mercy. Definitely on par with Survivor Series, and ever so slightly better, in my opinion, than Armageddon, which would round out the year 7 days later, 8 days later. So they'd flown over to the UK, done a pay-per-view, and they'd gone straight back to the USA and done another pay-per-view. There was nothing in between, apart from probably a Raw and a SmackDown. It always amazed me that, because you got the whole of December. You could have pushed your pay-per-view back a couple of weeks and got more out of your superstars there, Mr. Vista McMahon. Yeah, him. But he'd say, okay, pal, you're going into a pay-per-view. Really had and really was better than it had any right to be, this one. I really enjoyed this one. A couple of throwaway matches, which is a shame, but ultimately the finishing match, the main event, and a couple of matches in between were just really, really fun. And the crowd in Sheffield seemed to appreciate everything that everyone put on the line in this one. Anyway, that is our penultimate pay-per-view for the year 2000 as we go through the year 2000 on retro reviews for Cheap Shot Entertainment. We're rolling on to the 10th of December next, and Armageddon, with the famous Armageddon Hell in a Cell 6-person Hell in a Cell match, which was the shining light on that card, but we'll find that out later. In the meantime, click the subscribe button and do all the YouTubey type stuff and become part of the Cheap Shot Nation. And as ever, I am your host Luke, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
Hiya.